Let's see. It is 11:03 a.m. Today is December 8th, 2023, Santa Day at Alta California Regional Center. And my name is John Decker, the Director of Community Services. This is Coffee with Community Services, Alta California Regional Center's weekly service provider meeting. We'll see how long we go today. I think a lot of us are eager to run downstairs and go be at Santa Day, but and we got a bunch of folks that are already there. Already saw tons of clients, tons of service providers in the house today. So, real quickly, we'll go over introductions of folks and then get into our agenda. So, I see from our community services staff, Ethan, who has the pleasure of being right on the other side of the wall from me right now. So, we'll see how loud I am in my office and distract him. And then I've got Christine on this morning. Good morning. And let's see, I see Tom and Dee Dee, good morning. And I see my assistant Zach is on, and I see Marty on from HCBS. Good morning. Adriana, good morning. And Sydney's on. Hey, Sydney. We've got Beverly, we got Rihanna, we've got Alicia, we've got Rhonda, our housing specialist. We've got our a woman of many titles, Heather Hollingworth, lead community services specialist, acute care coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. At our regional center, we've got, let's see, Helen, our community services manager. I see Elijah on there. Good morning. Associate Client Services Director Tracy Brown is on. Good morning. I see Heidi from our Grass Valley office. Good morning. Michelle Duchesne, just in the other office in her festive holiday garb for Santa Day. Yes. And then let's see, we have, I think I see Aaliyah. The picture's a little small. There she is. Yes, she waved. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you all for being on this morning. We've got 56 folks on for the agenda today. We're going to start with the DSP stipends and get into that so we can let Michelle get downstairs. And then we are going to talk about the DSP surveys as well. We are going to discuss, as always, our HCBS activities. Let's see. I don't think I have Carly on here, but if anyone has an update about the DDS employment group, I know that met. We've got an update about the Capitol tree lighting. We've got some other things coming up on our events calendar. We have Sydney, who's going to be talking, I believe, about the 099 service providers and the 024s, that change. And then I think we have Aviana on, and so Paloma is going to be on, and others. That'll be our vendor spotlight. So we'll call for that in our agenda too. So anything else that folks are interested in talking about, you're welcome to drop it into the chat there. And I think I also wanted to remind, for the DSP surveys, we are going to touch on that because I think we got info on that being paid out for folks, so I'll make sure we touch on that. All right, so Michelle Duchesne, I will throw it to you first as it relates to the DSP stipends.
Thanks, John. Happy Santa Day, everybody. I hope everyone can make it down. Just a brief update. We are continuing to send out our confirmation emails for you guys for our weekly reports. We did receive an update from DDS on the 4th of this month, just letting us know that they will be filtering the report moving forward. So in the previous weeks, it's been an ongoing running report for every regional center, and nothing was filtered as far as the regional center duplicates and all of that. So they have advised that starting in the next week or so, they will be filtering those for us. So that will hopefully speed up the process because it is a pretty lengthy process to get those uploaded into our system and ensure there's no duplicates. We also have had a lot of questions about providers and how to bill as far as tax. Should they be applied, prior to tax or to gross? So we are interpreting the directive. It does say that the payments are to be added to the gross payment for the DSP. So we are interpreting that those have to be taxed as for payroll tax. So, but we also recommend that you guys just talk to your tax professionals as well. So, because we are, definitely not experts in that. So any questions on that? We're continuing to do that. I know accounting is reviewing that weekly and they are sending out those payments of those confirmed. Please keep in mind that we will be processing these weekly and just check your emails. And if any questions come up, the DSP stipend at Alta Regional is where you can send those questions.
All right, questions from folks? Anything? No? Oh, Eric, go ahead, please.
Sorry. We get the letters with all of our staff names on them, but we have like a lot of different programs, and we were kind of surprised where some of the letters went to. So we're not always we're not 100% sure that we're capturing everybody, because we have to collect all those letters, put them in a spreadsheet, hope that nobody missed anything. Is there any way or easy opportunity for us to look at something for our whole agency as opposed to per by individual letter and like vendor number?
I don't know why we would not, since we have the list and we have the listing of all the UCP ones. So in essence, rather than just getting them as separate lists by each of your vendorization, you're just wanting one that has like all your UCP vendorizations on it.
Yeah, we might. I don't think I need it right now, but because we're following up, we're waiting to see if they come in for the next batch of letters and those types of things. We just want to make sure that, but we might at some point want to, if Alta could, we might want to ask if we have a comprehensive list somewhere. I don't know if you have a comprehensive list, you guys break it up for those letters or not, but that
So
might be a need we have in the future.
it is provided by vendor number. It doesn't list the provider name at all. That's
Okay.
something that I can meet with you, John, and we can discuss. But as far as the report that we get, it's just by vendor number.
Okay.
I mean,
I
again,
think we're okay
we
for now,
can,
but I might
if
need
we
it.
have a list of vendor numbers, we can always very easily apply the vendor names to that
Okay.
list and alphabetize by you and see how we do.
Okay.
So yeah, we can talk about that for you, Eric, and I can understand. We would not be surprised, would we, Michelle, if people put the wrong vendor number down for where they work within one of, some agency that has multiple vendor numbers. We're certainly running into that even across regional centers. People that have vendorizations with multiple regional centers. So
And I do want to add too that we are getting requests. So if unfortunately, if a DSP puts the wrong vendor number, we are not able to edit that report because it is DDS auditable. So they will, if the provider is not willing to confirm under that vendor number, they would have to retake that training under the other vendor number. So the report reflects that.
not ideal, right? Not even 2023 technology that we have to ask people to redo things to switch the vendor numbers. But unfortunately, we are dealing with the system that we inherited when it was rolled out, and we're trying to do the best. We did learn that the department is going to be doing a better job in organizing the information before it comes to us, which we hope will even aid in us being able to process the payments even faster on our end. But yeah, certainly not ideal. All right. So if there's not any further questions about DSP stipends, just know that we'll kind of continue to be having the discussions with you about this. I hope we are one of the regional centers that has, I don't know right now which regional centers are having more utilization than others are, but I know we certainly talk about it a lot here. And I know from a lot of service providers, they've really been encouraging their staff to utilize it. So all right, the DSP surveys. We learned that the DSP survey payments went out on Monday, I believe, from our accounting department. And let's see here. And if there, I think we said last week that if you did not get one or you had a question about it, that you could reach out to Zach and he'll be able to let you know whether or not you were on the list or not on the list. And so Zach is still your point of contact as it relates to that, if you have any questions. All right. In the chat, I thought I saw something pop up. Payments from regional center do not include who they are paying for. That is correct, because we are paying only for the people that you guys have put on the self-certification document that you sent to us, right? Does that sound right, Michelle?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
correct. So the at this point, the way that you would audit that information and show what individuals need to be paid would be through those confirmation emails that we're sending you with the names.
Okay. DSP survey. HCBS, let's do a couple things. One, we had our inaugural, whatever we want to call it, our first HCBS visit. You guys went out. What's that like? What is one of those things like? Maybe you guys can let us know a little bit about that. And then also, I believe there's an update about office hours and an update about that. And then I think we had the grant stuff that went out as well, an update about that. And then so I'll throw it over to HCBS folks.
Okay, I'm on it. Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm one of the HCBS specialists here at Alta. We did our first in-person visit just a couple days ago. We have to be to every single program by August, so we're going to be visiting over 40 programs a month right now. And if we add another HCBS specialist, we'll be over 55 programs a month visited. Most of our assessment happens behind the scenes. We go through, we check your program design to make sure that it's compatible with HCBS, which it should be, because DDS helped make sure that was true back in March. But we're just checking that everything we need is in the file. We're reviewing individual program plans, IPPs, before we go out to the program to check for modification processes, so we know if any of those are in place. And then when we get to your program, it's about 45-minute review. It's pretty quick. We go through a physical plant review for day programs. That's just ensuring an individual's rights of privacy at the day program, like in bathrooms or places where you change individuals. And in the residential, we check bedrooms, locks on doors, etc. That review takes maybe 10 minutes for us to do a walkthrough. It's not as in-depth as the Title 17. And then the bulk of what we do while we're there is we interview 10% of your clients. So if you're a day program with 30 clients that attend, we interview 3 of them. And our interview questions are pretty simple, like, did you choose to come to this program? What kind of activities do you get to do in the community? Do you know who you go to when you're having trouble? Etc. So those interviews are the bulk of what we do, because HCBS is determined by individual experience rather than a place, a physical location in the community. So when your review comes up, you'll get an email with a letter attached at least 2 weeks in advance, letting you know when our office hours are. And we encourage people to come to office hours to learn about the process, and we go further in depth about what your assessment looks like. We come whether you come to office hours or not, so the more information you have, the better. Our office hours are virtual, and I have now bolded that in our letter because we've had 2 providers show up in person. We host them on Teams 3 times a month. And if you can't make those times, we will make time to talk to you about the assessment process. And once the assessment's done, we will send out a letter, and we're here to help support you in becoming HCBS compliant. So if there's things that aren't correct, we're not jumping straight to like facility action reports or anything like that. We really want to help you become compliant, and we've got 60 days to do that once we send you the letter to work with you. So that is a little bit about our process. You will get a letter with an invite letting you know which month we are coming out. These are unannounced visits though, so we can show up anytime during that month. And then as far as grants go, we sent out a letter this week indicating that we have $892,000 worth of grant funding for the next fiscal year. It has information about what DDS wants to see. I know Kylie talked a little bit about it last time. She was at Coffee with Community Services. So there's specifics that DDS is looking for those grants. But if anyone has questions about the grant or about the letter, we are available at hcbs@altaregional.org and can answer those questions. Proposals are due by January 10th because we have to choose and submit to DDS 2 weeks after that. And then once DDS approves, we will be sending out letters. So you probably get letters sometime around February or March if you are approved for one of those grants. Go ahead, Carol.
I was just wondering, these, I don't know how many times this is, 3 years, 4 years. They've done it a little bit differently. But the last couple of years has been this, like, we have a large chunk of money available, and just kind of wanting to understand a little bit better, like, does Alta have a kind of overreaching, kind of larger vision of how to best use these resources in a time when resources may become a little more scarce with the budget deficit that the state is facing, just so that we get the most bang for our buck out of those funds, and just kind of, I know, 2017, we all consolidated some of our grants and did some more person-centered thinking training. Just wondering if has there been any discussion at Alta that you guys could share with us in like an overall vision or direction, collaboration that you're looking for?
I mean, go ahead, John. You can take it.
Well, it's interesting because I have been talking with the HCBS specialists about this over the last few weeks about, what are you interested in? But I mean, since we heard about the funding be available, which again, you are correct. Like we don't necessarily have like we don't like have like 6 or 9 months to be like, hey, we're going to have, like, we know that this funding is going to be available and we know that we're going to have 6 weeks to administer, like a grant basically with a bunch of money that, doesn't have guidelines at all the way like, typically both grant projects like our CPP stuff, for example, has those big thick guidelines that come out related to it. So I think we've seen the legislative analyst office projections get like worse right over the last few weeks, and so purchasing things that are one-time cost type things for your companies, there's not really what we like to do, obviously, more than anything to stabilize the workforce is to stabilize wages, right? And making sure that we've got, the ability to be able to pay people, what they need to do. It's really tough to do that, obviously, with one-time funding that you get through like HCBS grant things. So then we look at other things. And I know I met with R&D Transportation on Friday. Helen and I talk about it all the time. Helen can talk about it even more. And because I asked her to, was that, we are having issues. We do not have the wheelchair vehicles to get people around places right now with our service providers. Our providers that are able and have drivers to be able to do it do not have the vehicles. And it seems like we've got folks that have the vehicles that don't have the drivers. And I would love to figure out how to get those folks together. But more than anything, we need to get people moved around so that we don't just have people sitting around and not going anywhere and having opportunities. And so, so that's one, I think, thing that we certainly have talked about, as it relates to this. I think, we want people to be creative. And I know Alicia talked before about kind of creative ways at looking to do it, but you're right, in the context of possibly a very tough budget year or years coming up, the idea of how we want to best utilize this big chunk of money certainly does make sense. Eric, hands up. Yeah.
On that point about wheelchairs, I met with a couple, half dozen something transportation providers that currently don't have wheelchair accessible vehicles. We're talking about other things, and then we brought up that question about if there's a way to help or support. It was about an hour that I thought there was a chance that UCP could work as like a third party to help other agencies get vehicles utilizing some state funding. But that door doesn't seem to be open. But I do think that would be on the transportation side, something that I want to do. We did, we got to wait and see what actually happens with the rate study, but the DDS is changing that. And when they asked for to do a per mileage rate, I suggested that they do it by vehicle class, but include 2 different classes for a standard vehicle that's unmodified and a standard vehicle with a wheelchair, because for some folks, all of our vehicles are wheelchair equipped, so that's just how we design. So I kind of forget that people don't do that sometimes, but it's hard because there's not a pay differential at all to do a lift. So when rates get depressed, all of a sudden there's not enough money to pay for that service. So that is in the proposal DDS, that differential too. So
it's tough because and so Carol, right now we're working with a service provider and we're working with licensing, for example, to talk about how we can get individuals that really do have support needs out into day programs without licensing being concerned about there being an unlicensed day program and stuff like that going on too. But the big crux of it is that you have to actually get the people out there to go do the things. And if we don't have the transportation to get people out to do that stuff, finding the extra aides that can participate with people in their, activities during the day is great, but then we're still short the transportation to get people, places. And not everyone wants to be in a licensed day program, right? Not everyone wants that opportunity. Some people want to go be able to do other things, but we can't offer a lot of variety of different stuff because we can't support the routes that need to get people places, and the wheelchairs just like stick out in my mind because my understanding is it's currently 16% of the rides that we have not fulfilled right now, and that's a big number. I will say the number of riders of transportation needs has gotten smaller. R&D has done a great job in being able to get people matched up, and we've had a number of new vendors that have come through for transportation over the last couple of weeks. I think we're probably at like 13 or so, but I mean, the transportation part of it's huge. But I mean, Carol, can we make an argument about doing a bunch of training right now, or like, do we want, what do you guys think? What would you like to see more of? Again, I heard about buying vehicles, but I'm curious what other folks. Eric, I saw your hand up, but I called on Carol though, so let's see what Carol might think.
We're just starting in January our HCBS training from the previous funds, and I'm excited about those trainings and have some information to share on that. But also just in thinking about the staffing crisis, and while we can't use the one-time funds to increase salaries necessarily, or it's not increasing rates, we can't really affect changes there. But how do we, kind of like you guys have attempted to do with the DSP collaborative website and all of that, but how do we recruit, train, give people access to staffing that is knowledgeable, that is trained, that, especially in SDP, we see that as a really, I think about those things with people's budgets in SDP, or maybe even through participant directed funds. Maybe individuals would have the ability to pay staff a little more that we're working directly for the individual, because when we're getting a rate to pay the staff, we've got all the overhead. If you can go direct contract with that direct support provider, potentially we have the ability to pay those individuals a little more while costing the state less. But how do you find those people, and how are those people trained, and how are those people supported when people's life situations change? Somebody gets out of school, now they want this different type of support. So I've been talking with a few people around some sort of collaborative network of individuals that are available to be hired, that are trained. I don't know how to make it happen, but I think there's some benefit in looking at some things like that, which includes training and ongoing training and support for staff and for families. But yeah.
I will say there's a few different service providers that have reached out to me with some ideas of things that would be certainly beyond just helping their own company themselves. I know on the transportation side of things, I've had some discussions with R&D related to HCBS. I know the STEP agency has had some discussions about an HCBS request for some training, and also looking at our enhanced SLS and some of the documentation that we have for that, and also looking at telehealth and emergency room telehealth, and expanding the availability of that for clients and staff to utilize to help individuals have better outcomes. So I want to I know we had an awesome little clicking sound that we heard from Alicia while she was talking earlier, but Alicia, I do want to throw it back to you again, just to let you give your input, because I know we've talked about this as well, things that we've already seen and things we might want to see, etc.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of projects currently going on. But I've heard of providers wanting to build upon projects that they're already working on, like maybe a phase 2 to their projects. We've heard about, I've heard from a lot of care homes wondering how they can help, what kind of tools can they develop. I know we've got a provider working on CEU units right now, which is really great, so they can get their staff trained at no cost to them. There's a lot of ideas floating around. We haven't gotten any proposals yet. There aren't any. I mean, I haven't really heard from a lot of our providers about what kinds of things that they are interested in doing with the funds.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
So when you get these ideas from a vendor, and you see that there's possibly a potential to collaborate with other like organizations, is that something that you entertain with the vendor? Because I think sometimes these projects could go further and be more successful if there could be some kind of cross-agency collaboration. So we're just curious, and we wouldn't know because we don't know what the idea is because we're not communicating as a
Mhm.
vendor community about those ideas.
If only we had a venue where you guys could get together every single week and talk about stuff.
Well, that's fine bringing it up, but I mean, is there a forum to share those ideas? I mean, this agenda is pretty tight usually, and it's mostly, there's not really a brainstorm session scheduled. So I'm just curious how we would go about sharing those ideas.
Let's do it next week.
Okay.
You guys want to set a little time, think about things, and then we can set we can set 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the agenda, just talk about HCBS grant ideas, things people might have, things people might want to partner with. I'm cool with that. And then that way folks might have a time to get some of their thoughts together in advance. And yeah, does that sound good? I mean, the reality is that we do RFP orientations for, our CRDP stuff where we, come in and you guys hear about it like really in depth and answer questions. Oh, Dee Dee's been doing those forever, almost since she first started, probably the first day she started. And so I think that would be great if we could look at doing something like that maybe next week here if folks are interested. And then we can have follow-up discussions about it up until the proposals are due next month. We didn't have a PAC meeting, right? There's no PAC meeting for us to go
No.
over this in between. Like
No.
that's what's tough is that typically like you'd be like, oh, let's make this a PAC item, an emergency PAC item because we just found out the timeframes and
Right.
whatever. We just don't have that. So because PAC input is what we want when we're talking about the types of things that we want to award as well, right? So Carol and then Eric, please.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Michelle, and John that'll be great to do. I am dropping in the chat just to touch bases on the trainings from the previous funds, HCBS funds, the training dates. We have a couple of them now set. Thanks, Alicia, for working and Kylie for working on getting us rooms at Alta for that. So we'll be doing our workshop one, Sowing the Seeds, Thinking Beyond Compliance, January 18th and 23rd. And then the second workshop, April 18th and 25th. Those are from 2 to 4. There is going to be in-person and virtual option for those. And let's see, I think the first ones are specifically for dates are for I think it's the opposite. For residential is on the 18th, so January 18th, and then day services would be on the 23rd of January. And you can contact us if you are interested in those trainings, and then we'll get links out to everybody as well.
You're muted, John.
And
All right, all that stuff I said was awesome just now. Carol, we got the information in the chat, so that's cool. We got the flyer there, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about that. We'll go through it to Eric.
The PAC's not meeting in December, but it's the 14th. It would have been a lot of it. Us keep it on our calendar, so you could do just take the PAC meeting just to talk about this since we're not meeting, one suggestion. And the other suggestion, I've been talking with folks, kind of privately throwing an idea around of resurrecting an idea that didn't go anywhere that I had during the rate study, which was trying to separate out payments for staff or reimbursements to staff that travel. Because I think that's something that would work really well with HCBS compliance. A lot of our rates were set at a time where it was expected that staff and programs were going to operate at a common location. So staff were going to drive to one location and to provide services. It's not just transportation for the client, but now you need workers that go lots of different places because they're going where the clients are at and they're not going to a facility. So I was thinking about bringing in, is there a way to tie this into HCBS compliance, HCS funded services to fund the travel expense for staff to travel, not just in between appointments, but traveling to all these different family homes, client homes, work locations, and making that as a separate reimbursement. So you can get a direct travel, mile and reimbursement for all of those things. That's something that
I'll be honest with you, real talk, folks. I don't know that we have the bandwidth to come up with a million different funding mechanisms for all of you guys while we're implementing the rest of the rate study over the next 6 months. So that's one thing. Like, we have been really accommodating and doing health and safety waivers, like all of our special meetings with vendors to try to really help these things. But all of that is to subvert or whatever the rate study. Like, the rate study is being implemented. We recognizes that there was weaknesses in the rate study calculations and implementation and everything else, so that we still haven't resolved, let's say, in the transportation realm at all. But over the next several months, we are going to be responsible for transitioning all of the service providers from those service codes over and onto the new rates. And we still haven't received the guidance yet from the department about what that is supposed to look like, though we know that there's going to be a significant amount of activities. And so what I will say is that things that require us to figure out special rates of like reimbursement, we're going to have so much of those other things that we're going to have to do for everyone, and categorizing people over this next 6 months. Even though we've been hiring up a lot at our regional center and like adding new staff, it's a lot goes into just doing one of those things. Just doing it, there's a really large amount of resources, and I just want to be very honest that very infrequently do these things actually ever originate from planning teams. They typically originate from you as service providers, first and foremost, the rate increase aspects. And I don't know how much we're going to be able to prioritize some of that stuff while we are implementing this last part of the rate study. And this is kind of a little bit to my staff as well, because there's just, there's so much that is going to be going on related to it. Obviously health and safety waivers are still things that are going to be, available to people and everything else. But all of the work that goes into that, is done by people that are going to be required to do this for 1,000, well, not 1,000, right, like several hundred service providers, maybe 500 or so service providers or more, as opposed to for like just one company. So just, I could say we can be committed to continue to be creative and innovative and flexible when it comes to like developing rates and reimbursements for different things. But I continue to be concerned. I met with the managers this morning and I met with accounting this morning because we still not received the guidance from the department yet about, for example, like many of your 055 vendorizations and wondering about rates and things like that. And we have not received guidance about a lot of the specialized clinical things that we were hoping for as well. And so, again, it's just going to be excessive, I believe, over the next 6 months. I do want to just update too. We still have not received any information from the department as it relates to the regional center performance incentive, not the regional center, the service provider performance incentive payments, the 10%, how you get that last 10%, right? We've been talking about this for quite some time. We understand, or we've been told, we haven't seen it in writing yet, but we've been told that the department is developing a statewide vendor database, and that the very low threshold for you as service providers to be able to get your last 10% of the rate increase is to go in and look at the statewide database and verify your information. But my understanding was we were supposed to get information about the database back in October, and that you guys were supposed to be doing your data entry in January, with possibly having that completed by March, so that, we'd have time to verify in advance of you guys having to be paid the amount starting July 1 that you qualify to be able to get that amount. But the timeframes don't seem to be working out too well because we still don't have the guidance yet on that aspect of it too. And the timeframes, I think, is going to be tough in order to ensure that we get all of our service providers to do the data entry that needs to be done in order to fully do the rate study. Again, I think a lot of these activities are going to fall on our regional center, and it's going to take a lot of staff time and energy to make sure that those activities occurred, because we want to ensure that everyone gets the full implementation of the rate study too. So I hear a call for the fact that we can certainly talk about this next week. That means I have to put a little flyer out so folks know that we are going to talk about this next week during this meeting. And then if you want to, I am not available to meet on the 14th when you guys have your provider advisory committee time normally. That's the statewide HCBS evaluators meeting, Alicia, I believe, at that time on December 14th. And that should be good stuff because I believe DDS is going to try to get a little bit more guidance out before then, like the actual thing that Alicia is supposed to submit back to DDS, indicating that you guys are compliant. I think that's going to get released here in a directive. And then we also have residential vendor forum at that time. But if you guys wanted to get together at all, like separately, or if one of you want to host something amongst the pack or whatever, like, you know, that would be cool. And then we can talk about it on the 15th when we get together next week. And then that'll give us time in order to get these in. These are due when again, Alicia, please?
My chat is covering my whole screen. They are due January 10th.
Perfect. All right. Just wanted to share with folks that the Capitol tree lighting occurred. I will, let's see if I can do this correctly. I will copy the link. It was a YouTube live event. They ended up, I just want to say thank you all. Oh, thank you, Zach, for reminding me as I look in the chat that next Friday is our last coffee with community services before the holiday break. So this is very timely that we have this discussion at our next coffee with community services. So that's great. Thank you very much. We will absolutely make sure that that is going to happen. All right. We had some back and forth as it related to the plans with the Capitol tree lighting, which some of you may or may not be aware of. Really want to thank those of you. We did have folks that came down to help us decorate for the tree. We also had make decorations. We also had a number of people that sent in decorations. And I believe that a good time was had by all. I am dropping in the chat. Let's see. They ended up doing it, I guess, virtually rather than in person. And they did it inside the Capitol Rotunda, and they put a bunch of trees up there, and it's pretty cool. And if you look at, let me see, I just dropped it in the chat right there. You can take a look at it, but I will share my screen, and I'm not going to share my sound, but hopefully you guys can see the Christmas tree lighting there maybe, and then you can see Bradley, who's one of our clients who is out there decorating, and then Camellia is right there as well. So just wanted to share with folks that the Capitol tree lighting, my understanding, went well. And again, thank folks that sent in ornaments for that too. I am going to jump over to Sydney, who has an update for us. Go ahead, Sydney.
Hi, so come January 1st, the 024 person-centered plan and the independent facilitator services are changing due to a DDS directive. So previously the 024 was paid $2,500 for the person-centered plan and IF services. That is now switching to $1,000 for the person-centered plan. And then there is going to be 40 hours under service code 099, which is going to be the general self-directed supports. And those are going to be a 40-hour max, and the rates are regional center specific. So DDS had released a form that had all the different rates. For ACRC, I have created an Excel spreadsheet that has all of our current vendors for 024 and 099, as well as the FMS 315, 316, and 317 for the self-determination program. So I've sent that out to all of the client service managers and community services so that everyone could take a look and see who our current vendors are. And there's going to be another one sent out relatively quickly because a lot of the older O24s are adding on their 099 services. They're just not completed yet. So once those get added on, then we'll have a more even amount of O24s and 099s, and also working towards vendorizing more FMS agencies. So I think that's it.
Excellent. I believe we have a service provider spotlight. I thought I saw Vanita on here and Paloma.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me and your time. I'm Paloma. I am the Community Relations Specialist at Aviana. My role focuses on supporting service coordinators throughout California. Nationally, a little bit about the company. Aviana Healthcare offers a range of services such as private duty, hospice, and medical solutions. Aviana Support Services is unique to California. We help regional center participants achieve their goals and dreams with services like respite, independent living support, SDP, daycare, transportation reimbursement, among others. A little bit about me. Aviana is my first role out of school. I studied political science and international relations. I'm learning a lot about healthcare, which is different, but I like it. And I will add my email to the chat. I live in Sacramento, so I am happy to help any way I can. Thank you, John. And I'm going to pass it along to Vanita, who is also in my team.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanita Parrish, and of course, I'm with Aviana Healthcare. I am the Community Relations Director, and I previously worked with one of the regional centers in California. So I come from CBRC, so I do have that background. So I'm a little familiar with what you all do as well. I want to thank you for actually letting me be a part of this meeting. I look forward to getting to know all of you a little bit better and connecting a lot more in my role with Aviana. And I will also put my email in the chat if you have any questions or concerns. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Again, let me ask, does anyone have any questions for Aviana? All right. Well, hearing no questions, thank you very much for putting your information in the chat there. For those of you in client services, you now know who the person is that, is supposed to be supporting our service coordinators. And so thank you very much for that. If you are interested in being one of our spotlights, we really want, especially new service providers that come on to get a spotlight. But for those of you that have been around a while and would like to talk about your companies, we'd really like to have you be spotlighted. You can reach out to Michelle Duchesne, and Michelle can put you on our agenda. All right, let's see here. I wonder if I could share my screen one last time. Are we seeing the Santa Day pictures? Yes, kind of. Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. So Michelle Duchesne went down this morning and took some pictures of the setup down there, and things are coming together. It looks like very nicely. And just to show you that Michelle was not the only one dressed up in an outfit for the event. So it's very crowded. I will say, I see the parking lot is completely full outside my window out here. So I think we've got, a lot of people downstairs. And so really hope folks can come in if they have not been able to enjoy Santa Day. But outside of that, I don't have anything else, I believe, on my agenda for today. Helen, did we have anything else? I don't think so.
Just again, reiterating what John has said about taking advantage of the HCBS funding for wheelchair vehicles. They always can modify a vehicle or buy an already modified vehicle. So I know they range from like 25,000 to maybe 40, 60 for modification, but I'm not sure how much to buy an already modified vehicle, but that's available to all of our transportation providers. Yeah. Thanks,
Excellent.
John.
You're very welcome. And so, oh, sorry. Look at that. I completely didn't even mention about the micro enterprise fair either that we had. So we did have a very successful micro enterprise fair as well, and certainly full house of people that were selling their wares, and also people that were, we had a lot of people that came in and bought. We heard that people did very well selling out on things. So always look forward to doing that, and we will be putting pictures of the micro enterprise fair on our January newsletter that is coming out along with Santa Day. So I got to go downstairs and see if I can go find some more pictures from people. So hope everyone else has a great rest of their day, a great weekend. Great idea. We'll be talking about HCBS grants next week. We'll spend some time to talk about that a little bit more, some ideas, maybe people might want to partner on something that they hear someone bring up. So be a good idea to come prepared to talk about maybe some of your ideas. All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, folks, and look forward to talking to folks soon. Take care. Bye-bye.